All right, we have been told we are just 2 sessions away between you being here and the rodeo, so we will get started. So, welcome to the session on product roadmap for SaaS models. I want to start our conversation with a game, which I assume most of you are familiar with. Are you all familiar with Jenga? Yeah? Yes, everybody is, oh my God. Okay, so if you know what Jenga is, you know how it works, right? You have got this huge tower where you have dozens of wooden blocks stacked one on top of other. This looks solid, right? It looks really solid and it feels like we are all done, and this is where the game begins. Each team player starts pulling blocks at a time, one after the other, and you're still fine for a while, the tower stays, but then suddenly someone pulls a wrong block out and the whole thing tumbles down. Now imagine that this tower is your AI stack. And think about every block in that tower. There is a block for your data engineering pipeline. There is a block for your model, or probably a few models. There is also a block for business logic that wraps the model output into an actual decision. There is also a block for user experience, a very important block for trust and compliance. Not to forget, there is a block for talent, which includes the people who are building these applications, including your data scientists, machine learning engineers, domain experts who know what good looks like. And every single one of these blocks could be coming from a different technology provider, could be developed on a different technology, and sometimes built by a different team member. And right now, as you sit here watching our session, someone is pulling blocks out of that tower in your AI application. And this is happening not because they want to do this. This is because they have to. And I see Jim has a black eye because of one of the blocks flying really high, hitting his eye.
Oh, you took my line.
And this is happening because the reality is that the underlying technology is changing at a really fast pace. A new foundation model drops, and the old one looks different, right? It becomes slow, or it doesn't look current, so you want to change it. A regulation comes, and then your whole governance layer needs to be rethought of or rebuilt. Or a vendor you're working with gets acquired, a key team member who was working on this AI stack leaves, and you are kind of back to the same equation. It's really like blocks getting pulled out of this AI Jenga tower time and again, time and again. So over the next 40 minutes we have together, me and Jim are going to show you a different way. But let me first talk about how widespread this problem is. 70% of regulated enterprises are rebuilding their AI stack in an order of months or faster. That's Jenga tournament going right in front of you. We all enjoy Jenga, right? Your best engineers aren't building new capabilities. They are rebuilding the same capabilities over and over again because a block has changed. But now imagine in regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, government, you don't get to move fast and change things at this pace. You either move very carefully, or because the risk is high, you don't move at all. Because every time a block changes, the entire application has to be revalidated, retested, reapproved, and those approvals are not easy. And the cost of doing this, it's not just time. The cost is that your experimentation always remains proof of concept, and it never delivers operational value. That Jenga tower I showed you isn't just time consuming to maintain. In highly regulated world, this is a liability you carry. And that's the problem me and Jim here are coming here to solve. So I am Manisha. I lead the global product marketing team for AI at SaaS.
Hi, I'm Jim Georges. I'm a principal data scientist for our AI and modeling team.
And here is the agenda of what we want to cover today. We do want to show you a different way which can get you to the most direct path to measurable compounding value from AI in your organization in your industry that you can deliver on right now. We want to talk about our SaaS models and agents portfolio. We will cover the strategic narrative and the vision behind this portfolio. We'll also give you a sneak peek of our roadmap. We also have some live product demonstrations with Jim here and specific insights into where you're going next. We do have a direct ask at the end of the session, which I believe will be very relevant for you, so I appreciate if you can stay till the end. So let's go. Jim, over to you. So why don't you tell us how are we making those blocks stable?
Very good, Manisha. This is all about SaaS models and agents, and it's basically our strategic narrative, as Manisha said. What we are looking for is developing models and agent capabilities within 4 principal domains. That's financial services, public sector, commercial lines, and of course, life sciences. So that's all of our models will support those in some way, and all of our agents the same. What's the difference? What we view as models are basically capabilities that can be leveraged by humans and AI to achieve certain tasks. And of course, what are agents? Agents are actors which enable us to accomplish tasks autonomously, being able to collaborate with humans. And we're building both of those into SaaS technology through the AIM division, which is what we're both supporting.
Absolutely, and you know, these building blocks, which are models.
Yes, I should really add that basically those two things, what we talked about Jenga, what do these things sit on? They sit on a foundation of trust. This is what you've heard throughout the conference, that everything is built on this idea. So speaking of Jenga.
Yeah, so think of these building blocks, right? What if we give you everything pre-validated, pre-tested, engineered for your complex requirements for your industries? And this is what we're aiming to do with this portfolio. Now, let me just explain how this entire portfolio sits in our overall portfolio of offerings. But I do want to explain what this portfolio is all about. So models and agents from SaaS are industry-focused offerings that are designed to accelerate deployment, and they are tuned to thrive to stringent regulatory environments. The whole idea here is that we do want to meet you where you are. It could be from different industries, and you can see our focus industries here, as Jim explained, but at the same time, also targeting specific use cases which give you the highest ROI. What you're seeing on the screen is SaaS portfolio of offerings, wherein you can see that models and agents fit very well into our entire portfolio, where we have our platform, data and AI platform, which is SaaS Viya. The goal of the platform is to help you create intelligence. We also have our industry solutions portfolio, which you have been hearing across various sessions at SaaS Innovate and also at the booth and the main stage as well. The models and agents portfolio, think of these as industry accelerators that can sit on top of this entire portfolio. What this means is that they can be deployed on existing SaaS Viya or existing SaaS solutions environment. Our focus area for models and agents portfolio covers 6 intelligent domains, which are aligned with our solution offerings, including fraud, risk management, life sciences, supply chain, customer, and health intelligence. But the important word here I want you to remember for these portfolios is that these are composable. They are very different from an entire enterprise end-to-end solution, which requires a lot of groundwork to build and also to deploy and implement in your own environments. These are lightweight components, which can be immediately plugged and played into your existing business processes, and they work very well with our existing portfolio of offerings. So Jim, let me hand over to you now to talk more about this particular area.
So let's talk about the vision here. If you go forward in this presentation, think back to this slide. Where are each of these steps that we're going to, or things we're describing, fitting into this vision we have? And I think the first principle of our vision is faster time to value. You want to skip the months of configuration that are required to go from, I have this nice SaaS solution, and I want to get value from it, but I have to do all this professional services work beforehand to get started. What we want to do is accelerate that time to value. So that's vision element number 1. Number 2 is that we are tuned to domain-specific data requirements. So these are built on proven industry innovation. So that when you see a specific application, that means we've worked in that area and we have something to say about it. And vision point 3 is that these things that we're offering, these models, these agents, are governed and composable. What does that mean? Governed means you have visibility into how they work. And composable means they work together. And these are critical concepts when we're trying to deploy our technology. So what I'd like to do, I think what we're going to do now for the next few minutes is talk about this portfolio of models that we have. Can you tell us, so I think we're going to organize it in 3 sets. First, we'll talk about what's available now, what's coming next, and what the future holds. And this is our kind of sneak peek, as Manisha was telling us earlier. Manisha, why don't you take what's available right now?
Absolutely. And what you can see here on this slide is models which are available right now for 4 different industries, which is public sector, financial services, life sciences, and commercial. And I'm going to double click on some of them. One of the most popular models we have in public sector, where we're getting immense traction and demand from state agencies, is SaaS payment integrity for food assistance. We will cover this in a short while in a lot more detail. For the public sector, we also have models for SaaS tax compliance, covering sales tax and individual income tax. For financial services, we have consortium models for fraud monitoring that cover a variety of banking products and channels. Think of credit card, debit card, ATM, digital wallets, and emerging fraud typologies like application fraud and money mule detection. These are one of our best-selling models, and they come applied with our fraud decisioning solution. We're going to double-click on some of them as well. In the healthcare industry, we have medication adherence risk and document analysis for healthcare. For the commercial sector, that includes manufacturing and retail industries, our models cover supply chain optimization and industrial safety. You also see a lane here for cross-industry models, and let me explain you what I mean with them. There are cross-industry offerings which we have in our portfolio that cover things like AI-driven entity resolution or document analysis, and also new and budding data mapper agent. The whole idea behind these accelerators is that these act as components when we create more models aligned to those industries. And one example you can see here is our document analysis model is a horizontal model. What that model does, it enables optical character recognition on scanned documents. And the one listed right above in the life sciences section, which is SaaS document analysis for healthcare records, this model is tuned for healthcare industry. It's built on top of the cross-industry SaaS document analysis model. Now that's a lot of area. Jim, we can start collaborating with our customers directly. So why don't you tell us about one of these models?
Well, of course. I mean, you guys saw this during just after the session with Mel Robbins. It's this Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP. It's much easier to say SNAP, isn't it? We all know what the benefit of food, nutrition assistance is. It's a very great program. The interesting aspect of this, and while you saw a lot of positive messages about this during the discussion at lunch, there are also things in place that are going to be problematic for the state agencies that run these programs. And I think the primary one, the value that this is bringing, is the fact that because of something called the One Big Beautiful Bill, you ever heard of that? There was penalties in place for if you have an overpayment rate, it excesses some threshold. There are a lot of jurisdictions, believe it or not, in the United States that are currently outside of that threshold. And it's very interesting because I was talking to the model developer just this morning. There was a press release where Nevada has started using this model. In fact, they just went live a couple of weeks ago. And already their hit rate for finding overpayments has increased 5 times what it was previously. Why is that important? Because their overpayment rate was in the double digits. And if your overpayment rate is above 6%, you get charged a 10% penalty on the total amount of the program. Their program value, the amount of SNAP benefits they're paying, is on the order of I think it's around $70 or $80 million. And that means they're facing penalties around $10 million if they don't get this rate down. This model has put them on trajectory to achieving that goal. So they're going to be not only serving the customers better, but they're also going to avoid federal penalties that are involved with not managing the project as it should. There are other jurisdictions in the country that are even in worse shape. I've been told that an example of a southern state, I'm not going to name, it faces over $100 million in penalties if they don't get this in order very soon. So there is great motivation for people to use these technologies to comply with federal regulations, improve operating efficiency, and even, you can identify underpayments. One more aspect of this, which I find is fascinating. As I was talking to the model developer, one of the things he's seeing as jurisdictions are implementing these things is it's not just pay and chase, it's actually they're discovering patterns that lead to the overpayments in the first place. So it's creating a means to improve the policy that is related, that has caused some of these overpayments to occur. So it's detection and policy improvement that is available. This is a fabulous model, and it's really creating value.
Absolutely,
Manisha?
and if you are a state agency who's working on food assistance programs, this model is available right now for you to start leveraging and get that business value out. Now,
How about another one? Let's see
yes,
this one.
let's see the other model.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next model I have is SaaS fraud decisioning for payments model. Let's double click on it. So think about these models that are set of pre-built, continuously updated analytical models that are trained on consortium data, and that data is coming across the financial services industry. The training process, which we undertake behind the scenes to get that model packaged and delivered to you, is that this includes pre-processing. So you can see on the slide here, this represents a lot of consortium data coming to SaaS, and what we're doing here is we work on that consortium data to make sure that the data has some sanity checks. We are doing some fraud tagging. We then go and do work on new feature selection, feature generation. And once our feature set and is ready, our feature engineering is done, we then move to the model fitting and evaluation exercise. And finally, the model is packaged to enable that fraud decisioning for payments model. This is the work which SaaS is doing heavy lifting in the back end, which does include analytics expertise as well as expertise of the fraud domain, which is combined with the power of consortium data coming from our customers to deliver this model in action. Now, where this model gets valuable is when this is deployed, right? So this model can be deployed on our SaaS fraud decisioning solution, and this is a solution which provides end-to-end enterprise capabilities for supporting fraud operations teams, and that this includes real-time transaction monitoring, alert and case management, transaction blocking, and reporting, among others. These models are one of the SaaS flagship offerings when it comes to fraud management solutions, and this is what differentiates us from many other fraud solutions in the market. Now, I do want to add what value these fraud decisioning for payments model bring, right? The value here is not every bank and every customer who's looking at fraud detection is at a same level in terms of information and data to be able to train their own models. And this is where consortium models help, because now you are learning from patterns of the entire industry. And fraud is an area where the industry kind of collaborates to help benefit the end customer. So what we're doing here is, rather than asking each institution to build and maintain their own models from scratch, the process, if you're doing it yourself, could take months, and it does require specialized talent. We are packaging these models, and these models have already been trained on patterns drawn from broad cross-institution data sets. With us providing this consortium model, the goal here is that you don't start from zero. You do have this baseline of patterns learned from millions of transactions across the industry. With this model, again, the value, I'll just reiterate, we are helping the industry strengthen fraud prevention. These models are tuned very carefully to make sure that the false positives stay at the right threshold level, which is acceptable at an industry level and also to your bank. And at the same time, by doing this, we are ultimately helping our customers improve customer experience. I do want to add that till date, our fraud models have been deployed across multiple banks, and they have already processed millions of transactions in real-world deployment.
There's actually an interesting statistic that was presented during the lunch, I don't know if you caught it, that SaaS fraud models are processing 300 million or 300 billion transactions a year. If you look at the total landscape of card payments in the world, I actually had to look up with an AI what this was, actually Google, but it was answered with it by Gemini. It turns out the total volume of transactions or card transactions in 2024 was like 1.2 trillion. So you can see that 300 billion is a significant fraction of that 1.2 trillion. So if you're swiping your card somewhere at a payment terminal, it's likely, or tapping your card, that you're going to hit a SaaS model. And that means that these are really important and valuable contributors to the United States economy, or in the world for that matter. So these are real value, and imagine with that base of transactions, the learnings that occur to retrain these models and to be able to update them, and that consortium data can be shared amongst all the banks and really get continuous improvement of the models. Should I show them some other things we're doing?
Yeah, why don't we talk about our roadmap?
Yeah, for sure.
So you can start to contribute to the consortium. Our fraud decisioning team was here, and they did a breakout session in one of the Innovation Hub theaters, and they did invite and call for action for all the audience to make sure you come and participate in the consortium data. But again, you could be a SaaS fraud decisioning solution customer, and in those cases, you can start to work with that consortium data and directly start applying that model as well.
We're looking at other questions? Okay. We're looking at that roadmap. We've covered a lot of the models that are available now. What's next? Well, there's a couple of them I want to call out specifically in the health services industry. One of them I've actually been working, and my team has been working fairly closely on, is clinical data transformation. The idea is that life sciences companies have a huge amount of data that is stored about the trials that they've run in the past, but it's kind of loosely organized, let's just say. The idea is to use this clinical data transformation to map it to a standard format like SDTM. So the question is, how do you use AI to detect what was in the data, what was the protocol that the data was built on, and how do we migrate that over to the standardized formats. Another one is the length of stay. That's a very interesting, I think, application of analysis to say, all right, how long, if a person comes into the hospital, how long do we expect them to have services? And that will help us with scheduling beds and things like that in the hospital. And finally, I should add that there's a fraud decisioning for cards model. That's an update to the models that are existing right now in integrating the latest technology and latest data to update our very vast portfolio of credit card fraud transactions. So that's what's coming next. This is, I think, next horizon's a few months from now, right? So, and then beyond that, there's a future horizon. And you can see those kind of listed there. They kind of can be categorized into augmenting those different industries, remember the 4 different industries, with various capabilities and various tools. For example, one of those tools is entity resolution, which is the process of trying to discover if multiple records belong to the same person. There's another category of document analysis. Document analysis is ingesting data in a format which is not typically amenable to analysis, such as a scanned PDF file. So those are that ability to include that data in your backlog and training sets in the future is very useful. A third category are optimization models. These are often overlooked in portfolio. Everyone loves predictive models, but then how do you optimize and allocate resources effectively? That is another category of things that are coming out in the future. And finally, I'd like to call out one more, which is, how many of you downstairs in the Innovation Hub saw the person with the hard hat and the cameras and all that down there? You could detect problems. There's another one that is a worker safety model related to heavy machinery, forklifts in this case, and being able to automatically detect safety violations. So that's a lot, all that model is being trained in digital twin scenarios, and it's very interesting to see this thing be developed and deployed. So those are some of the things that we're looking forward to in the future from models, but models are not the only thing we're building here. We're also looking at agents. Remember, agent models were the tools that tell you facts about the world. The agents are the actors that can act on those tools. And we're going to feature a few of them here. One of them is in the category of stuff that's available now. Another one, which is going to be the data mapper agent. Another is going to be something that's coming next, which is the supply chain agent. And that's been seen on the main stage. It's been seen in the spotlight stage. It's been seen everywhere. You've seen this probably enough. If you haven't, I can't help you, but you can come by the booth if you want while you're waiting to get on the bus and talk to my colleague Brett. He can give you all the details. But what I am going to show you through a demo is kind of give you a framing of how those agent models get deployed. So that's going to be interesting. One more thing we're not going to talk about today, but there are anti-money laundering agents that we're in the process of making in the financial services area. All these are agents, and I think what we want to emphasize here is that all of these are field innovated or field driven. And what does that mean? It means that you, the customers, are helping us develop them. And we're going to have a special invitation at the end of this to talk about how you can shape the development of some of these agents. And so this is going to be really exciting. Wait for that in a little bit. But Manisha, let's talk about agents, shall we?
Absolutely, and I know the whole market is hyped about agents. I'm sure you've heard so many presentations, and every presentation had something on agents, right? But we are different, and I'll tell you why, right? If you think about agents, I want us to be grounded in terms of what these agents mean for highly regulated industries. And I want you to know 3 areas which you should think about, which are non-negotiable properties of agents when you start applying them for your industries. Number 1 is these agents need to be secure, which means they should respect your governance and access controls. There should be no shadow AI running outside your defined parameters, and they should also connect with your existing systems via open standards. One of the concerns in a couple of the conversations I was having when I was at the Agentic AI booth was a lot of our customers are concerned about security of these agents, because imagine if these agents are given access to your data sources and there is a security hack on those agents, you actually risk the entire banking database exposed to those security attacks. So security is definitely number 1 in terms of non-negotiable areas. Number 2 is transparency. We do need to raise the expectations to make sure a lot of the agents we're implementing in regulated industries, they deliver explainable insights and full visibility into decisions. Now, if you go the non-deterministic route completely, explainability can be given only to a certain extent, right? And we will show you how we are changing that shortly through a demo. But that explainability requirement is something which regulated industries we know cannot skip. So it's a must-have and non-negotiable for the agents for enterprises which are regulated. Number 3 non-negotiable property is that these agents need to be reliable. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that we all know that all these large language models are prone to hallucinations, right? And again, coming back to those high-stake regulated industries and environments, we do want to make sure these agents are reliable, which means they are enabled with skills to apply advanced analytics, which you can explain, which you can predict. You can repeat the same outcome time and again if you use those technologies in your decisions, along with large language models to enable accurate and audit-ready insights. These 3 properties, which is secure, transparent, and reliable, is what differentiates the agents we are delivering to the market. And Jim is going to show you some of those properties when we do the demos. So Jim, do you want to double-click on what I mean by that, and what do you mean by components of agents?
For sure. I mean, before we actually start looking at some of these specifics, let's look at like a framing slide, or what are the agents? You know, you've heard it all the day long and yesterday and probably all since last year and a half. But what are we talking about when SAS is talking about agents? We're talking about addressing specific industry problems. We're talking about their accessibility through a chat UI or an API. We're talking about being able to deploy as containers. So all these things can be integrated into your systems. You know, not just necessarily on top of VIA, but even beyond. Now, what's inside the box? The agent box is has a platform which, when we say agent, you think, well, it's one thing. But no, actually, agents are multiple voices. There are sub-agents to do many, many tasks. And the tasks, what comprises an agent is a set of skills. These are ways to do certain things. You do instructions, facilitate the agent to how it should behave. The next is tools. And these are those models, for example, and modeling methodologies that the agent uses to solve problems. So examples of this are the large language model, forecasting, optimization, other industry models, the things that our modeling division is providing. We have domain knowledge integrated in through various constraints in the model. We have a set of code which is going to be basically handling special situations. Among some of that is going to be how the agent itself behaves. And finally, providing background context. Some of these things are not distinct, but it should be that next line down where it says stateful memory, that is what we mean by context. It's a form of memory. There's long-term memory saying, what have I done before? Short-term memory, what I do just the previous step. And documentation, which provides a big context window into what is necessary. Some of the things that we do are using RAM, for example, the RAG, retrieval identity generation. There are other storage methods that are available or emerging, and those are all kind of document storage which integrate into the agents and help it to do things. These multiple agents are all orchestrated together using an orchestration layer, and it helps the model, the whole collection know how to work. On the outside, we need to make sure that we have connectivity to the outside world. There are various protocols we're using, for example, MCP and A2A are various commercial protocols that all of our SAS agents support. And finally, as Manisha was saying, in a regulated industry, governance is everything, and that's one of the features that we want to make sure we're supporting there.
Absolutely, Jim. And I do want us to go back to that Jenga tower, right? So think about this entire Jenga tower and pieces on it, right? There is connectivity, governance, memory, the blue layer, which is where large language models are married along with forecasting, optimization, and all the advanced analytics capabilities will help the agents stay grounded. And at the same time, the orchestration layer. And think of all of these building blocks pre-validated, pre-stitched, pre-assembled for you so that you can right away go and deploy them in your own environment.
Right. So why don't we look into some of those agents we mentioned? I think maybe that's a reasonable thing to do at this point. I think we're doing okay on time. So let me get back over here. That's one of the agents that I worked on personally was this data mapper agent. Now, one of the things we need to say about agents is they are living in the background. You usually can't, the agent is not the UI. The agent is not the interface or the interaction with people. The agent is the entity which is doing things. We'll apply a UI on top of that so you can see what it's working, and that's some of the things we're going to show you in the next few minutes. But background, what is these agents trying to do? Data mapper is an agent whose job it is to take data from one format and map it to another. So here we have, supposedly in generic terms, a data lake. Maybe it's in a cloud environment. And we need to get that into the format it is necessary for our SaaS solution. So the data lake is a customer's data set. We don't know what's the structure of it, in advance, and the SaaS solution has its own specific data needs. So what we need to do is to find a way of mapping from the customer's data structure to what the SaaS solution needs. So we use a SQL engine and query it, for example, to get the source schema from this particular data structure, the data lake. It can be provided in a variety of ways, one of which is like an information map. It might be a contents output. It might be something else. It might be a structured JSON file. But we need some description that the mapper agent can use to interpret the contents of the data and make decisions on what is there. What does it mean? And the amazing thing about the agent is it can, by giving some context, like this is a healthcare data set, and here are the variable names, I can now determine what I need to do to map it to something like, say, the medication adherence risk model that I was speaking of earlier. So the medication adherence risk model, this SaaS solution, is providing a target schema. This is what we need. Here's where it's coming from. Let's feed that into the mapper agent And what will be created is code that goes from the source to the target. That code gets fed into the SQL engine and creates a view to the data. So what happens next is that the SaaS solution now sees the data lake in exactly the structure it needs to do the analysis that it was designed to do. We aren't replicating data, we are actually getting the data in a view that is needed by the solution. Now, why is this important? Because in the past, this would be done by hand. Now we'll be able to do it with an agent. It's much, much faster. Let's take a look at this in action. I have a little video here that kind of shows the basic steps, and I'm gonna hope that this runs. So here is the process of uploading a source schema. This can be done automatically, or I'm gonna show you here through a UI. I load this in, and Mapper takes it in and understands that it has a set of columns with generically or generated descriptions of what the columns actually mean. So it knows that this is a data set which is related to healthcare. It's able to derive what meaning from the context. I have a target schema. This is what my medication adherence risk model needs. I load that in, and now I have, these are the target tables. This is what I need to get from that source data to make it, to do the mapping. I click map, and now Mapper is figuring out how the pieces fit together. It's not Jenga, but it's more like a jigsaw puzzle. It's going through it. You get to see this run a little bit. I should have probably let this go a little faster. You get the results. Some of the things are slam dunks. Some things need human review. They're little check, exclamation points. Take a look at what's done. Here we see actually a field which needs to be derived from data. It's facility stays. I need to know when somebody is coming into the hospital and when they leave. Now, the data set that we pulled from doesn't know that exactly, but there are instructions explicitly in how to build, the agent has figured out how to build that from hospital records. We can also, find things that are in the, we can all modify them. I think we're showing something like this. We're going to derive these variables and give it some instructions, and it will correct the implementation. I said, well, you missed one way. I know that you have to use procedures, but you should also look at surgeries because those are happening as an inpatient basis. So we've corrected that in that example there. We're ready to do the actual generation of the code, and here it is. We've decided that we want to use Postgres as our output. We click generate, and what's happening is that Mapper is creating a plan. It's saying, this is how I'd like the code to be generated. And it's been found that you create, to use generative AI, you make a plan first, how to do it, and once that plan is in place, we can say what exactly you need to do. So that's the code, and we'll see that in a moment here. Let's go to the code tab and see what that looks like. There it is. It's generating the code. The plan was used to create the code. And finally, once that code can be executed within the framework of the SQL environment you're working in, you also get documentation. That documentation can be used for data governance purposes, so it's very transparent to the user what exactly happened. We want to export all this. We have a function to do this. I don't think I needed to scroll through all those things, just I guess. But you can see that this documentation is quite complete. And we download the artifacts, ready to put these into production. Something which would take months now takes minutes. And I think that's a real incredible finding. There it is, those are your artifacts, and that's what Data Mapper does.
Wow. And Jim, is it right to say that data mapping is so tedious and it's so applicable to any industry you're coming from, and this is basically the agent which helps solve that problem?
So this is geared towards SaaS solutions. We can also do it for some other data, shortly. If you just have a target and source, you map them together. So we're going to move along here, Manisha. I think we're getting short on time. So what's next?
Absolutely. You have a 5 p.m. deep dive on Data Mapper, right?
That's
Dallas
correct.
1-2,
right.
So you do need to run there.
So yeah, I'll dash over there, and you can come follow me if you want, if you can keep up.
All right. So let's move to our next agent, and I will just kind of run through this a little faster in the interest of time.
Right. Deep dive demo.
Okay. So now let's get to the supply chain agent, and let me just explain the problem statement very briefly. So at the core of supply chain planning process, it's about answering 4 fundamental questions. As a supply chain planner, you're trying to understand what to buy, what to make, where to position it, and how to deliver it to your end customers through the supply chain network you have, right? So in entire process, what you're doing is you're making multiple decisions. You're making purchasing decisions, you're making production decisions, distribution decisions, and inventory decisions. And all of these decisions are happening simultaneously. And in that whole process, there's a lot of dynamics, right? So your supply dynamics change. You get a new order from a customer, and you need to orient that entire process time and again. Now, overall, what you're trying to do with this process is you're trying to balance cost, service levels, and risks while meeting your consumer demand. So typically, in a real-life scenario, when you don't have agents, this is how the supply chain process works. You have Sarah, who's a demand planner, Michael, who's a supply planner, Emily, Robert, and James, who are finance, inventory, and sales directors. And what they do is, after every end of month, they all get together, where your Sarah and Michael have already done some of this core work with regard to gathering the data, reviewing the demand, reviewing the supply, and all of them then, end of the month, get into a meeting together and discuss those results. They do discuss a lot of trade-offs. So for example, if a customer demand changes and they say that, hey, I have this new order coming in from Walmart, which is my customer, and it's a very important customer, how do I adjust the supply chain process and make sure that order gets delivered? And then they run those trade-offs, which is what takes time and which is where the brain power lies for the supply chain planners. Now, this entire cycle time is 3 to 4 weeks from start to finish, done manually through meetings and through some advanced analytics and areas like optimization and forecasting. Now, think of this entire process run by agents. So here, imagine that Sarah is interacting with a demand agent. You also have Robert interacting with an inventory agent. And in all of these activities, they can all happen in parallel because the agent is now supporting them to do data gathering, demand review, supply review, right? At the same time, what they can do is there's an agent orchestrator which can orchestrate all the activities which are happening across these agents and give a common view to the entire team. And at the same time now, think about new ways of doing meeting. We are now doing a lot more virtual meetings. So what they can do is they can add this agent to a chat group, and they can chat with the agent. They can also add this agent into their team's meeting, and they can start using this agent and discuss the trade-offs in a meeting, real time, and start getting that agent to give real-time responses as well. They also can review scenarios and trade-offs. Again, as supply and demand constraints change, they can come back and add those constraints and get real-time results back, giving them faster time to value, right? So that entire process now, think about that getting compressed from a monthly cycle to the entire process happening between 3 to 4 days from start to finish, which means that they can run the same cycle time and again in basically a higher frequency, keeping them on track with regard to the order and supplies. In this case, think about this agent becoming a co-worker for them. And this is what true agentic AI is in future when we start delivering these agents in operational environments. Now, Jim, do you want to do a quick review of this?
I don't think we're going to have time. There were actually some demos of this like twice today in the last 2 hours. But I would invite you to come to the Ready-Made Agents booth, and you can talk to me or my colleague Brett about the details. So in the interest of time, I think we should just move to the conclusions here.
Sounds good. And again, this is one of the very exciting agents we're delivering to the market. This is not generally available right now, but it's coming soon. So please go check this out. And if you're in manufacturing industry, retail industry, this is the agent you want to experience. Now, I do want to wrap up very quickly with a quote from an analyst. And we did share the supply chain agent in a couple of briefings with some analysts. And this is the feedback we get. And we would love to hear your feedback after this session as well. But in the words of IDC, AI and Data and Automation Software Director, Research Director, what she shared with us is that in terms of what she's seeing in the market, current pre-packaged agents which she's seeing, they do tend to cover more basic processes. From a SaaS perspective, they do see that we are tackling a more complex process which could deliver significant value, and only a few vendors possess the knowledge and capability to address this efficiency at this scale. So again, we are very excited about releasing the supply chain agent in the market very soon, so do keep track on our announcements on our website. Now, whatever we showed today in the models and agents portfolio is something which you can influence in terms of what we build next. That roadmap you saw is always evolving depending on the demand we are getting from customers. I do want to introduce this concept of Innovation Lab, and the idea here is very simple. Think of this as a collaborative space where you bring a problem, we bring our experts, and we collectively devise a solution. And if we see value and basically we see potential that this solution can be applied across different industries at scale, then we do intentionally productize it. And this is a process I want you to be aware of. If you have a problem statement and you did not see in that roadmap and you think that's repeatable across industries, you can be a part of influencing that and helping that entire industry to have that solution with SAS. Now, finally, I want to wrap with a few takeaways. And again, there's one more session to go between you and Rodeo, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. But I do want you to remember that the real problem in AI isn't just models. There are a lot of models in the industry. Those models are becoming sophisticated, and at some point in time, those models will be table stakes, right? The real problem lies is that most AI initiatives today are failing to scale, not because those models are weak, but because the stack keeps breaking. Remember that AI Jenga tower I shared about. Everybody in your organizations has a Jenga tower, and somebody's pulling those blocks out right now. SAS is delivering packaged, governed, and industry-focused AI in the form of our models and agents portfolio, where we are combining data, models, decision logic, orchestration, and trust so that you, our customers, don't have to stitch these pieces together themselves. Last but not the least, I want you to think about agents as accountable co-workers, not just as AI assistants or chatbots. This industry is evolving very fast, and this is where the industry is heading. And the agents which we are delivering to the market are designed to act. They're designed to explain themselves and operate within governance, keeping humans on the loop while compressing the cycle time. So I hope you enjoyed the session. If you have questions, we'll be around. You can find us at the Tri-Zone, where there are, you can go and try and feel a data mapper agent and a supply chain agent at Innovation Hub. We're also available at these Innovation Hub booths. You can find me at the Agentic AI booth, and you can find Jim at Ready-Made Agents booth. And we also have an applied AI and modeling booth in case you have questions. Bring your problem statements to us, and I know, Jim, you have to run for your next breakout session, so good luck for that. I would love for you to scan our SAS models page on SAS.com. This has got all the catalog of models that are available now. So if you want to read about them, download some research, have questions, go check this page out. It's a great resource, and we continuously keep this up to date as we provide new models to the industry. With that, thank you very much for listening to us and staying till the end.